are some external data heavy use cases, but where the value comes in here then is for us to build those automations and workflows for you. So one example is a competitor intelligence, where we've set up a few personas that do weekly recaps of what is going on in the market amongst your competitors. That could be linked to your internal data as well to kind of see, okay, taking all of this external market research into consideration, what every competitor is doing, how does that affect us? And what should we be looking at this week or this month or quarter to be changing internally to strategize better and to stay ahead of the market?
From humble beginnings, Insurance Claim HQ has grown to one of the largest property casualty firms in the country. We didn't do it alone, and you shouldn't either. Every week, we're talking to claims professionals and top experts from all over, all to help you grow your business and make you stronger. Let's level up together. I'm Galen Hare. Welcome to the Level Up Claims Podcast. AI is such a broad term, so it's really interesting to talk about very specific examples of its use in actual business. How does it work? How does it affect productivity or free up time? Today, we're answering these questions and discussing a few ways that my law firm is utilizing AI. Joining us today is Program Manager at Personal AI, Charlotte Lindberg. Charlotte, it's so good to see you again. How you doing today?
Good. How are you, Galen?
I'm good. So I've been super grateful to get to know you and spend some time with you, but this is our first podcast together. So I want to talk about personal AI. I want to talk about AI, all the things that you guys are doing. But before that, let's talk about you a little bit. Like, how did you even end up in this world?
Yeah, so it's a funny story. I actually worked at a different company for a little bit right after college. And we went to the personal AI office here in San Diego, La Jolla, and we were about to have personal AI be a client of ours. And then things kind of fell through with that guy, and I ended up leaving that company. And the team here actually reached out to me and asked if I wanted to join them instead. So it was a simple transition there right after college, and I've always, been interested in AI personally. So it was an interesting field to dive into. I come from a psychology background, so it's a bit different, but I usually work with customers now anyways. I feel like I have both that people side plus the technology side. So it's been fun.
When you said psychology, but specifically, I think it was organizational psychology, right?
Oh, you're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. So we've actually had a guest on the show before who's an organizational psychologist, and what she does is teaches kind of some of our referral sources, for instance, like roofers, public adjusters, even law firms, like how to better structure, better recruit, better onboard. So, but there's actually a lot of that kind of in what you guys have to do as well, because I think the onboarding process is as big a pain as anything else.
Yeah, you're right. That's like the main part of my role here right now, is to onboard all the new customers and then make sure that kind of workshop and the training transition goes smoothly throughout the process. And then we hand off the AI account as we progress, and then I just make sure that to check in and stay in touch with all the customers. But yeah, it's fun.
And where are you from originally?
So I'm originally from Sweden, and I moved to the US about 6 years ago, right after I graduated from high school back home. And yeah, I don't have any plans on leaving to go back to Northern Europe yet. It's too cold.
Like it here too much, huh?
I know.
Too cold, is that what you said?
It is too cold, yeah. I'm freezing in San Diego when it's like 70 degrees,
I was going to say, you definitely picked the right state, because we have plenty of cold states here, just not where you are. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. So obviously college organizational psych, random meeting, ended up at personal AI. But let's talk about what that transition was like for you to kind of end up in a very tech forward AI company. What were some of the misconceptions you had about AI that, had to be dispelled for you to be successful in this role?
Yeah, good question. I think the main thing was just my lack of knowledge, honestly, to anything tech related. I was as any other, normal ChatGPT user. I had no idea what a small language model was, the technology, the architecture behind it, the memory layers, all those little things and nuances that go into training an AI model. It was just very much over my head. I'm still obviously not an engineer. I'm learning, but I've learned a ton over the past year And I think the biggest thing was just learning how to navigate all those things and what's the difference between these, the general large language models versus how to specify and fine tune that to your own company or your own use case, which has been super interesting. I think it's still a new thing, a new concept for people to wrap their head around. A lot of people are used to the large language models. Even that can be new to some people, right? So AI is still a little bit of a, maybe not a scary thing anymore, but it's still, people need to learn, more about it. So I'm always happy to learn and to teach about AI.
So let's talk about those differences a little bit, because I think the average user, even if they don't have experience with ChatGPT, they know what it is. Mm-hmm. They might not understand what large language model means, but they've seen it work, they've seen it used, and so many people in our industry, because it's just what they know, are taking documents, plugging them into ChatGPT, asking questions, getting answers. Why? Obviously, that's a tool, and that can work. Mm-hmm. But why are there better options? Like, what's the difference?
I think there's a few different things that differentiate us, obviously, from large language models. I think if your sole purpose and your only need is to upload a file and to get answers back at you, and you just kind of go back and forth conversating with the AI, then a large language model is probably enough for you. You don't need it to focus and spend time and money and resources on building your own proprietary model. But if you're in a field where either maybe privacy and security is a huge thing, like in the legal field, in the medical field, in the regulated enterprises, they might even need, on-prem solutions or their private clusters or things like that. Then that's where we would come into the picture if you're heavily focused on the privacy and security and safety or compliance overall. I think that's a big difference. The other thing I would say is now with our enterprise deployment, I would say that having the AI workforce, having different AI models kind of grouped together to live in your same workspace, where you're able to share and collaborate on the personas, as we call them, the agents, across your company. So instead of having your own ChatGPT or Copilot account, you're able to collaborate and share and communicate with your team members and multiple AIs at the same time in the same very no-code, user-friendly platform. I think the third thing would probably be just the AI in general. There's a lot of context window limitations when it comes to large language models, and you don't really have that memory layer of the persona. Like you have with personal AI, you can upload thousands of files into your persona to build this robust proprietary knowledge that's unique to you and your persona and your use case. And then when you do go in and ask those questions, the answers will be tailored and specific to you and your use case and your company, rather than an AI that's trained on vast, public external data that's generic and the same for everyone, right? So I think those are the three main differences, I would say.
So let's break that down for like the non-tech folks. So for instance, the last thing you were just talking about, like having answers kind of customized to your knowledge base and your needs, because I don't mind sharing things we do typically on this podcast, because that's the whole idea, is to let you guys at home know what we're up to and why we're up to it. So one thing we're working on, and it's not fine-tuned, but one thing we're working on is like a policy reviewer, right? So like anyone listening to this podcast could take a policy, upload it to ChatGPT and say, hey, summarize this policy for me, tell me what's covered, what's not covered, and here's my specific question about whether hail's covered. And they'll get an answer, right? Mm-hmm. Might not be right, but they'll get an answer. Mm-hmm. But what they won't get, if I'm understanding you correctly, is they don't know how you work. They don't know how Charlotte likes to receive information. Mm-hmm. They don't know how Charlotte interprets this endorsement or that endorsement. So what we're working on now is, okay, we want a memo to be produced by our AI that you're building for us. We want it to have this, we want it to analyze these like 10 factors, and then we want it to call out our attention to anything else we need to know. Yeah. And we want it to look like this, and we want it to feel like this. So now when one of our team members uploads a new policy, our attorney will still read the policy as part of like actually practicing law for them, but we can create a memo like instantaneously within, I think the response time was like under a minute, right? And we can produce that memo and even give it to the public adjuster or contractor that wants a quick summary of that policy, right?
Perfect. That was very non-technical, simple way of explaining it. And I think that's also value I forgot to mention earlier. With our open APIs, we are able to build these workflows that are, it takes kind of the hassle out of it when, if you're in ChatGPT and you have to reprompt and always state, let's say you have those specific requirements and the specific instructions and the specific formatting you always want it to be in, you always have to remind the AI, like, okay, no, do it like this. No, do it like this. Rephrase it like this. Versus if we set up an AI persona that has these pre-built instructions and directives and a workflow, maybe even like when you drop the file here, it'll go through all these different directives and all these different sections will be formatted in the way you want it. And the last thing that happens is just poof, it just appears in your Dropbox or it's sent to you as a Gmail attachment or something. So I think that's where the magic comes in, and where it's more valuable to, use a small language model and a company that can help you with those workflows.
And, we use this phrase persona, but can you kind of explain to us at home, like what a persona actually is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for us, we've built this around the term persona, where it's where you have your entire workspace, your company or your firm, and you have these different personas that are either role specific or more task oriented. So you could have a CFO persona, a policy insurance analyzer persona like you guys have, maybe your own individual employee persona. I have Charlotte AI, where I upload more private things or my own emails to help me communicate better. So the persona is a specific knowledge domain, expert in its area with its own memory. So you upload certain files, PDFs, documents, CSVs, or whatever you want to this one persona. So it's an expert in its own task or role, versus this other persona is a completely different memory layer with its own uploads. And those are separate AIs, right? So you communicate with this one and this one separately. With us, you can even put them together in a channel and kind of communicate with both AIs at the same time, along with your team members in a kind of a group collaborative setting. But that's a way for you to get away from that generic AI and specify into specific roles or tasks in your company. And those are obviously used for the workflows later as well.
And this was interesting because I was a little skeptical when I first met you guys and we talked, because it sounds so abstract, especially when you're talking about them working together. But I think the explanation like you or either Suman gave me was, we have like our CFO AI, right? Who knows all the financials of the company and figures this out. And we have like our marketing AI who knows what marketing campaigns we're running, how much, what we're spending, what our ROI is, and then we have like our operations, our COO, who like knows what everyone's working on at any given time and what their capacity is. So I can ask it a question. I can wake up at 3 a.m. and I can say, I had this great idea. I want to do blah, blah, blah. And I can, because I can ask all three at once, like the operations will be like, well, hold on, we don't have capacity for that. We would have to add these 3 people and that would do whatever. And then the CFO can say, okay, well, that would cost us X. Mm-hmm. So we're going to need to charge Y for that product. Mm-hmm. And then the marketer would be like, well, okay, this is the only way we could really roll that out without being inconsistent with our existing messaging. So like, what is that? That's like that's 3 separate meetings at your office and then probably one big group meeting all happening on a chat at 2 a.m.
Yeah, you're completely right. It's a very, that's one of the key things. And even before we went to this full enterprise, focus, when we had the consumers and the personal plan users, just creating that digital twin of yourself that someone else could access 24/7. Now we've obviously scaled that where it's not maybe the Charlotte AI that you can tap into, but it's the actual operations team or the COO that you can tap into, or the company policy, the HR resource department you can tap into. So you have those resources available to you at all times. And I think it's a very valuable thing to be able to tap into different domains at the same time, and then also have your team members be able to view that in those different channels, or depending on where you deploy it.
And one of the things y'all have built, like aside from the AI side, what I see at least, is like right now at our office, like we tend to talk on Teams, but like there's a world where we kind of transition our conversations to your platform, because we can also jump in, right? So if like my persona that like knows what I know says something that I disagree with, I can go in and change that
Oh yeah.
and A, teach it to stop doing that, but B, make sure it didn't provide misinformation. Like, so I can in real time see what robot me, I guess, is saying to my team.
Yeah, we have a bunch of different settings and features when it comes to permission and kind of monitoring what your AI is doing, whether that be, you're the persona owner having the AI be on co-pilot mode, as we call it, where you're reviewing the response before you actually send it out to your team members. That's one way to do it. Or the permission levels now with our enterprise platform is that you can be giving certain access levels to certain peoples in your company. So some people might have access to train the persona and collaborate with you on building that memory layer, versus some members in the company might only have access to chat with the persona. So they won't see kind of the behind the scenes what's been uploaded, but at least they're able to tap into the knowledge by messaging. That's a few ways to think about it.
Yeah, and there is security there, I guess, right? Like, you don't have to worry about, if you set your permissions appropriately, you don't have to worry about like one of your employees leaving and taking all of the knowledge base within the AI. Like, they know it exists. They probably even know where it came from, but what they can't do is recreate it. They would have to figure out what source material you had. They would have to figure that out on their own. And they can't just hire you guys to be like, I want what they had. Like, nope. You might put the structure in, but you will not put the knowledge in.
No, exactly. All even the AI model itself is owned by the customer, not owned by us, right? So it's proprietary to you. You own the data, you own the model. If you want to go ahead and deploy it elsewhere, if you want to monetize or do whatever you want with it, it's your model. We're just here to help you build that and teach you how to process the data in different ways.
And I think we even discovered, right? Like, this was the funniest thing. Like, we were working on one specific AI model to help attorneys kind of evaluate cases from a certain stance that was taught by a certain trial lawyer. And so one of the things we were doing is figuring out what the right material to upload is. And we're working on this very hard, right? And simultaneously, you're actually working with that lawyer that created all of that material and uploading all of his stuff from him, like for his model, not ours, right? So there's like a complete separation. Like, you guys showed it to me when it was done because you're like, we thought you would find this really interesting. But, the whole time your company, in theory, had everything I was looking for, right? Yeah. But you don't give it to me because that's not your deal.
Yeah. As long as, until the moment something has been released publicly, it's up to the customer to decide on whether or not they want to share anything that goes on with their AI. That's not up to us. Obviously, it's the customer that owns everything that's going on. And I think for that particular purpose, yeah, you're right that a lot of the data might have been the same, but I think even still the use cases were the end use case was different, right? So for one attorney, it might be to have their members come in and ask certain questions. I think it was more of a legacy thing, like legal strategy, versus for you guys, that would have to be, what does that mean to your internal team and your operations and your strategies? So I think that's interesting to see how the same data sets can be used differently as well.
Yeah, and yield different results, right? Because for him, he also uploaded, I believe, thousands of hours of video of him just talking through concepts and things. So it ultimately, and that's a good thing. It ultimately had more of his knowledge than I would ever have because I didn't live in his life for 50 years,
Yeah, you're right. So that's where the beauty comes in, right? So what's proprietary to you and what data you have, and even things that live up in here, right? You cannot find that on ChatGPT. You can't find it anywhere else. It's what you've done, what's unique to you and your company and your firm. So obviously that's where the robustness comes in, where you're able to train an AI model on all of that information. Plus, either sometimes it could be external resources as well. I think that's where a lot of the cool automations come in. Kind of you tap into external resources and then you cross-reference that with your internal resources to kind of see how you can strategize and come up with new ideas.
And then you can build APIs, I guess, to even, it's challenging at first, I'm sure, but to start to read your internal data like in real time. So like, I assume your CFO persona at your firm like is reading your financials regularly. No one's printing out a QuickBooks report and uploading it. Like, you have some API so it knows what's coming in, what's going out, what you're spending money on.
Yeah, for sure. There's different APIs for all sorts of uploads. So I think the only thing you would need is just a trigger from somewhere, whether that be a new row is added to your spreadsheet that lives somewhere else. As long as you have that trigger, the persona would automatically catch on to that new upload and it would automatically make sure that the data is up to date.
That's awesome. I mean, that's so cool. And So for someone sitting at home thinking, okay, this all sounds really neat, but I don't even know what I could do. Like, you do onboarding, like you have onboarded countless clients that are implementing AI in their everyday business. Like, what are some common things you do see? Like, obviously I'm not asking for you to disclose like what someone currently has in development, but what are some common use cases you see where they're like, oh, I didn't even know we could do that. This is going to be like great for my business.
Yeah, I think currently the most popular use cases have been regarding there are some external data heavy use cases, but where the value comes in here then is for us to build those automations and workflows for you. So one example is a competitor intelligence, where we've set up a few personas that do weekly recaps of what is going on in the market amongst your competitors. And then it'll consolidate all the information based on keywords, it could be based on different sources that you're usually looking into. And it kind of drafts this whole report to you weekly or daily, or like the second something is released internally, and sends that as an email to you. So that is a persona that could be linked to your internal data as well, to kind of see, okay, taking all of this external market research into consideration, what every competitor is doing, how does that affect us? And what should we be looking at this week or this month or quarter to be changing internally to strategize better and to stay ahead of the market? I think that is a very popular use case currently when it comes to more corporate strategy type use case. For legal, I would say our current most useful use case has been similar to what you guys are doing on the website now, the intake persona, right? So taking this classic like contact us form out of the website, and instead having that conversational intake AI that gathers all that information and asks all the right questions. And then you just get that summarized conversation pushed into your CRM, where an attorney or someone else on the team later is able to reach out to those qualified people, right? The qualified leads. I think those are two really cool use cases right now.
And that one's cool. You know, again, no problem talking about it here. I assume we've released it, but candidly, that is not my area of this firm, right? Is what happens on the website. But yeah, we Charlotte developed AI person with her team, developed an AI persona for us that we could deploy onto our website. So instead of the normal like fill out name, number, or even that live chat, which usually sucks because it's usually someone in a remote country somewhere with broken English typing at 3 a.m. to you, and all they do ultimately is take a message. So it's a waste of being live chat. It's very frustrating too. Someone that expects live chat to realize they're not talking to anyone that actually works for us that can help us. So this talks to them. It actually even provides, it doesn't provide legal advice, but if I remember correctly, it does provide info. It's like, oh, here's a video that we did on that. Here's like, here's some guidance we have on this. Go to this page on the website to learn more about this. So it will steer you, but then it keeps steering you back to, can we connect you with our intake team so we can talk about your problem? Like, would you like our intake team to call you? Can we, can we get our intake team to text you? Like, what can we do? And then step two, which a different AI company is actually working with us, is currently taking that data, and they're still in the test phase, but they're almost ready to launch. And if they fill that out at 3 a.m., we'll get you guys to go back and coach the bot to say, is now okay? And, an AI intake agent will call them at 3 a.m. and talk them through their issue. And if they qualify, we'll let them know what it looks like to be represented. And if they want to speak to a person, no worries. They'll get a call at 8 a.m. when our first intake person comes in.
I know, it's super cool. It's so fun to see, and I think it's changing every month. There's always a new use case coming out. There's always new technology within AI that we have to look into to make sure that we are staying up to date. So it's always fun to hear what other AI vendors are doing for sure. It's great to.
Yeah, and y'all are doing some voice stuff too. Y'all are able to do a bunch of voice, but I know when we talked about intake, you were like, that's not, you guys are building so many personas that are reading so much data that wasn't really your bag. But again, that's like a great example of how like even AI vendors can start to interact. Okay, well, Charlotte did this amazing job at capturing our leads, like while they're on the website so they don't leave, but we can take that one step further and not wait until 8 in the morning to see if they change their mind. Or make that hard decision that every law firm, public adjusting firm, every company really has to make, which is, do we invest in shoreside like onshore overnight staff, which are expensive and hard to train and hard to monitor? Or do we outsource and then everyone knows we outsourced?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's super cool. I'm always excited to hear kind of the new ideas that are coming out and to follow along with the improvements and the technology advancements. It's really cool to see.
Is there anything either you know is coming that you can tell us about, or something you think might be coming that you're most excited about?
I think on your point, when it comes to voice, I think that is something you will be seeing more of in the future. So definitely, stay tuned for more voice experiences.
Yeah, we keep talking about this with like every AI person, sometimes on the podcast, sometimes not. Like, I think we're not far away from a world where like companies have a sales AI person and they have a purchasing AI person. And it'll be so interesting to see what a world looks like where AI agents are calling each other to collect information about a product and try to sell it to the other one, and to see who wins that battle, you know?
For real, totally. Yeah, it is a crazy world, honestly. It's funny, just a few years ago when, you didn't even use a large language model, and now we're here talking about a world where maybe agents will interact with each other. It's fun. It's
wild. But I mean, we're already kind of there. Like if Charlotte and I work together, we could say, oh, we really need a new accounting software, and what would be the normal strategy? Go look online, see what everyone offers. Okay, now I want to talk to someone there. I want to talk to some customers. Like, we're not far away from AI just being able to call those vendors, ask all the questions, even ask for references, even call the references, talk to the references. Yeah. And then instead of us having to make those hours of phone calls, we get a summary. Okay, here were the 5 we thought were contenders. Based on the references, here's what we learned. Yeah. Here's the one we recommend.
Yeah, we have a policy like internally, and I think a lot of companies are thinking more along these lines, is look into AI before you make any new hiring decision. Like, is this a role or a task? We say persona first mindset, right? When I'm like, oh, I wish someone could just help me with this. Just think again, can I build a persona to help me with this? Before I think do I need an assistant to help me with this? Or do I need to hire 3 new people to do this job or to complete these tasks? There's a lot of the times an AI can help you with those tasks or roles, right?
That's awesome. That's a fascinating, and look, that point both underscores, but also like supports like all the fear people have. They're so worried AI is going to replace everyone, but that's not exactly what's happening there. Like, no, it's not replacing you. It's augmenting and supplementing you. We're just not augmenting and supplementing you with 16 more people.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. We're not here to replace anyone. We're just here to help and to improve and to automate or, make things more efficient or, you're right there with us.
Well, Charlotte, I appreciate you as always. Every time I get to jump on our calls, it's a joy. And we really appreciate everything you've done for us. Before you go though, I do have to ask you what it means to you to level up.
For me to level up, I would say similar to what we've been talking about, right? To stay ahead of what's going on currently in your field and to try to get there before everyone else. So we even have within personal AI, we try to think ahead, right? So we always want to be on the front lines there of what's going on. So I hope you feel like we're doing that for you guys as well. We're thinking ahead.
You are. You're definitely doing that for us. And again, we appreciate your friendship and your support so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Me too.
I'd like to thank Charlotte for joining us on the show. AI is just such a hot topic right now. And as you can see, it's literally changing before our eyes. So what about that mindset that Charlotte mentioned? AI first. Do you think that you have tools available to you right now that could make your business faster, leaner, and more effective? Maybe we should take an AI first approach. Follow us on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player.